It's the biggest game of the year so far. The Ohio State Buckeyes are at Notre Dame. Probably a little more important for Notre Dame than Ohio State. I will explain. Don't worry. All that coming up. Lockdown Big Ten starts right now.
You are Locked On Big Ten, your daily podcast on the Big Ten Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Big Ten. I'm Craig Sheeman. Thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by Jace Medical. Empower yourself when you purchase a Jace case, providing you with a personal supply of 5 antibiotics that treat 50-plus infections. Get yours today at jacemedical.com. That's Jase medical.com. Huge weekend coming up in the Big Ten, but we are going to lock in on Ohio State and Notre Dame. That's the big one this weekend. Plus, the Big Ten hoop schedule was released. I'm very excited about that as well. And we have our Big Ten classics. Make sure you subscribe and follow Locked On Big Ten for free wherever you get your podcasts. That way you'll get the latest episode of this podcast as soon as it becomes available each and every day. All right. This game is huge. We'll be talking about this game in September in December. Trust me, because we'll be talking about who's getting in the playoffs, who's not. We'll be talking about resumes. How did this team do? How did Ohio State do against Notre Dame? How did Notre Dame do against Ohio State? That will all be in discussion when we get toward the playoff conversation. So I think it's more imperative for the Fighting Irish to win this game than Ohio State. I think Ohio State has actually allowed a little bit of a mulligan here. I will explain that later. Maybe you'll agree with me on all of that. But right now, I want to get into this spectacular early season matchup. I'm sure you do as well. Look, the Ohio State Buckeyes, they spent all spring and all summer trying to figure out their quarterback situation, right? And look, no problem. It just took a little longer than they had hoped for. And ultimately, Kyle McCord created some separation from Devin Brown. It happens every year with teams all over the place. Not a big deal. But then I think because the competition continued into camp and into the Indiana game and whatnot, the Buckeyes actually looked a little behind schedule. I think it took them an extra week or two to get their feet under them. And I think that's why they were so sluggish against Indiana. Instead of their first guy, their first QB1 getting all the snaps, they were splitting snaps. And I don't think they were as sharp as they could have been before they gave McCord the job. And I think anybody who watches the Buckeyes or is involved with the Buckeye program would agree with me on that. I mean, they were winning games, but, things weren't looking right. Following a few more practices and a few more tweaks, now here we are into the season, and this offense is starting to look like its old self a little back. In fact, last weekend, the 63-10 win that they had over Western Kentucky was more like what the Buckeyes expect before they get into the heart of the Big Ten season. Now, while the Buckeyes had everybody's attention kind of tinkering with the offense, their defense was playing some pretty good football. We've talked about this in our last couple of podcasts, just kind of a thumbnail sketch, if you will. But the defense has been performing at a historic level. Fewest points allowed through 3 games since 1975. They've only allowed 250 yards rushing in 3 games. Remember, it was the defense that had to be fixed. It was the defense that was the scapegoat last year. It was the defense that got burnt on the big plays in the Michigan game, in the Georgia game, ultimately costing them the Big Ten championship and possibly a national championship. So that's what they had to fix. And look, due to the strength or the lack thereof of their recent opponents, it's tough to gauge really where the Buckeyes are at this point of the season. But all that doubt will be answered one way or the other when the Buckeyes have their first major test of the season by traveling to South Bend and play the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Both teams are ranked, and so this is just a huge early season game with late season implications when you talk about the playoffs. Now, certainly, Notre Dame defensive coordinator Al Golden going to lose some sleep this week, as he's making plans for the Buckeyes and what to do against them. The Buckeyes offense has the most talented set of wide receivers in the country, bar none. It's not even a conversation. So, okay, fine. Marvin Harrison Jr. and Emeka Egbuka, shut them down. Concentrate on them, right? Well, I don't know if that'll work, because then what are you going to do about the Buckeyes running attack? They got two running backs. They have Travion Henderson, of course, averages 6 yards a carry. You got Mayan Williams. He keeps them deep at the running back position. Pick your poison. You going to shut down the running game? You're going to try and shut down the wide receivers in the passing game. What Notre Dame should do, they should focus on getting pressure on quarterback Kyle McCord. This is just his fourth start of this season. He's still finding his way. And the Ohio State offensive line, while it's coming together, they still have a few guys figuring their way and figuring things out a little bit. The Irish defensive line that will be facing the Bucs offensive line, full of seniors across the board. You got all seniors. They're all pretty good. And this Irish defense is decent. It picked off 3 passes against North Carolina State already, although they did give up 24 points in that game. But maybe there's also some more good news for the Irish defense here. Linebacker J.D. Bertrand, he is expected back. He was in concussion protocol. He missed last week, but he is supposed to be back. That means if they have all 3 linebackers for Notre Dame, the 3 linebackers have 62 career starts combined. So I'm telling you, they got a defensive line that's all seniors. They got 3 linebackers behind them that have 62 starts of experience. That front 7 of the Notre Dame defense is pretty formidable, and they could get some pressure on Kyle McCord in this football game. Either way, both teams are very hyped about this game. One Notre Dame writer said that this is the biggest game for Notre Dame since the Bush push in the USC game 18 years ago. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Speaking of pressure on the quarterback, let's talk about this for a minute. The Buckeyes need their full attention on Fighting Irish quarterback Sam Hartman. He is a 6-year senior transfer out of Wake Forest. He can make any throw to any part of the field at any given time under any given situation. He's that good. Denzel Burke's going to have his hands full, one of the DBs for the Ohio State Buckeyes in this game. Hartman's got like 13 touchdowns and no interceptions. He's been flawless so far. He's really, really looking good. Now, let's not forget about the Buckeyes defensive line. They're pretty good as well. They're going to try to get to Hartman just the same way that the Irish are going to try to get to McCord. JT Tuimoloau and Jack Sawyer, defensive ends for the Buckeyes, pretty formidable in their own right. I will point out, though, that those 2 guys, even though they're good enough to be in the NFL, and they will be in the NFL next year, 0 sacks so far this year, 0 in 3 games. I know they're not happy about that. They did have 13 quarterback pressures combined last week against Western Kentucky, but limiting Hartman's time to throw will be key here. It's always key. Let's be frank. I mean, it's everybody's key to the game anytime you have a big game. Bottom line, this is a huge test for 2 top 10 teams with big aspirations here. Now, I would actually argue that this game is a little more important for Notre Dame than it is for the Ohio State Buckeyes. Now, you may say, what? It's important to both of us. You might be right. But here's how I look at this game. Notre Dame being an independent, they need some pelts on the wall for their resume, right? So they get this game or don't get this game. They only have 2 more ranked opponents on their schedule. One of them's Duke. All right, they're for real this year? Are we going to say that? All right, so one's Duke. The other one's Southern Cal. That'd be a quality win that they would have to get. But that's about it. And remember, they don't have a conference championship or anything like that. But getting a win against Ohio State will go a long way to getting Notre Dame, if the rest of their season goes smoothly, into the playoff conversation. Now, the same may be said for Ohio State. Again, resume builder, go beat a ranked Notre Dame team. But if they don't, if they slip up, if they come up short, maybe it goes down the wire, I don't know. It's still a non-conference game. That means Ohio State could suffer a loss, and they could still have every one of their goals ahead of them. They still have Penn State. They still have Michigan. That's all coming up on their schedule. Plus, they've got a possible opportunity to play another ranked team if they make it to the Big Ten championship in December, when everybody's talking about figuring out who's going to be in the playoffs, when you talk about the committees and making all their final decisions. So, again, maybe slightly more urgent for Notre Dame than Ohio State. Both teams want it badly. I can't wait for this one. It is going to be a fantastic game. Going to be locked in all Saturday night on that one. How do you feel about it? How do you feel about what I said? Give me your comments on Twitter at Talk Big Ten or here on YouTube at the bottom of the podcast here. And by the way, while you're here, go ahead and subscribe. I'm asking you to do me a favor. Subscribe. Get us our numbers over 3,500. We're this close. We're this close. Let's get there. Anyway, coming up, I want to talk about some other things that are going on around the Big Ten, and I'll have an injury update for you, and also take a quick peek at the upcoming basketball schedule in the Big Ten. All that right here on Locked On Big Ten. I want to tell you about Jace Medical. Jace Medical has a Jace case. You know what a Jace case is? Well, I'll show you. I have one right here. They just sent it to me. Comes in a little zipper case like this, and it's got. I'm showing you if you're watching on camera. Got your antibiotics right there, and it's very nice. The Jace case. You just fill out a simple online form, and in some cases, if you need to, you can jump on and have a quick call with one of their board certified physicians. But you can get ongoing care from their physicians with any treatment related questions you may have. This is doctor created, doctor recommended. Why are we doing this? Well, things happen. Disasters happen. I live in a hurricane prone area. We've had pandemics. We've seen supply lines get cut. Pharmacies run out of drugs. We've seen it happen all in the past couple of years. So don't be caught unprepared. Everyone should be empowered to take care of themselves and their loved ones during the unexpected. So I'm going to tell you what you need to do. You go online, Jace Medical, and I'll give you the online address in a second, but you fill out a form and then you get a prescription with prescription life-saving medications that come right to your door. This was mailed right to me the other day. The Jace case gives you peace of mind so that you're not just hoping that you have access to medication in an emergency. Jace Medical makes sure that you have medication in hand when you need it. And you can save more than $360 by getting life-saving antibiotics with Jace Medical, plus an additional $20 off by using my code locked on at checkout. So you go to jacemedical.com. That's JASE medical.com. And again, use our code locked on for the discount. All right. I can't recommend this enough. You got to have this sitting around the house to help you out with Jace Medical. So this weekend's Big Ten schedule is fantastic. I've just spent a few minutes already talking about Notre Dame hosting Ohio State, right? Well, that game's on NBC Saturday night. Keep the remote control ready because over on CBS is the Penn State whiteout game against the Iowa Hawkeyes. And I'm going to be going back and forth. This is going to be great. Also, I should mention, since this is Saturday night, if you catch this podcast regularly throughout the week, or maybe you're just discovering us today, many people are new. The past 2 weekends on Saturday after the games, we've been coming on and do the podcast live on our YouTube channel, on YouTube Live, right here with Locked On Big Ten. And we are going to do that again after the Ohio State Notre Dame game, and also the Penn State Iowa game should be ending about the same time. Now, this might be a little later than normal. Last couple of weekends, we're doing around 9:30. I think about 11 o'clock or so, we'll be coming on live and doing a special Saturday podcast. These have been pretty successful. So if you enjoy them, I enjoy them. We will continue to do that. Again, around 11 o'clock, I think we'll be going live on Saturday. Speaking of Iowa, their tight end, junior tight end, Luke Lachey, we've been talking about him all week. He finally did undergo surgery on Tuesday on that right injured ankle. An injury he suffered in Saturday's win against Western Michigan. He'll likely miss the rest of the season. It's too bad. This is an NFL quality tight end, but we're talking about an Iowa tight end. They all go to the NFL from there. So like tight end university over there. Very impressive. So also, speaking of primetime football, don't forget, Wisconsin's hitting the road for a Friday night game tomorrow in West Lafayette to take on the Purdue Boilermakers. That will be on FS1. Look, if Tanner Mordecai and the Wisconsin Badgers offense doesn't light it up with their air attack that they've been calling it during Purdue, because it's been coming up a little short air attack wise the past 3 games. And they're going against a Purdue defense that's given up 91 points in 3 weeks. well, we're just going to officially stop calling it the air raid attack. Luke Fickell's staff has inherited one of the best running games in the country, and that's what they should stick to, in my opinion. I've watched their games. Their running backs are phenomenal. Their offensive line can block for these guys. That's what they need to stick to. And if Luke Fickell wants to slowly change things and Phil Longo, the offensive coordinator, over the next year or two, fine. But they've got something really good that they need to stick with it, in my opinion. Hudson Card, on the other hand, for Purdue, he is worth watching. He really throws a nice ball. He spins it pretty well. And I think he will impress a lot of people before this season is over when it comes to Purdue football. Now, I know we're in the thick of football season, but the Big Ten just released its basketball schedule. I'm not going to go over it here, but there's just a couple of highlights. And there are some early conference games ahead of the usual traditional early January start. In fact, December 1st, we got Maryland taking on Indiana. We got Northwestern visiting Purdue. In fact, those are the first of 12 conference games that will be played in the first 10 days of December. Everybody's doing it. Everybody's getting an early game or so in conference play early on. During conference play throughout the rest of the season, the schools will play 7 other schools twice in home and homes. They'll play 6 teams once, and 3 of those 6 teams will play at home, and 3 of them will play on the road. That's how it's going to shake out. And then the 27th Big Ten Conference men's basketball tournament will be March 13th through the 17th at the Target Center in Minneapolis. Of course, Purdue is the defending conference and conference tournament champion. So hoops is right around the corner. I want to thank you guys for making Locked On Big Ten your first listen every single day. You everydayers out there. A reminder, another live broadcast note in addition to what we're doing Saturday night. Don't forget, on Fridays on all of the Locked On College channels, including here on Locked On Big Ten, it is the Locked On College Football Kickoff Live show every Friday, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. You can find me on it. I'll be contributing. I'm always on there for a few minutes, previewing all the Big Ten play. And everybody else is on there. It's loaded with information, people, talent. It's all good. Don't want to miss it. Meanwhile, I'm going to ask you again, do me a favor, subscribe to this channel, Locked On Big Ten right now. It's free, gets you in the club. You're good to go, and it will help us out. We're making that push to 3,500 subscribers. And you can share, follow, and like Locked On Big Ten, however you consume it. Coming up, we're going to take a look at our Big Ten Classics. That's what we like to do as we get closer and closer to the weekend. All that coming up right here on Locked On Big Ten. FanDuel. Tell me about FanDuel. Get ready for the NFL season with incredible offers from FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Plus, all customers who bet $5 will get $100 off NFL Sunday ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. I just signed up for that too. I got it. Got it all. It's great. This is now the best time to join FanDuel. The app is easy to use, and you can be on everything from point spreads, player props. I love over-unders. I like those better than point spreads personally. And don't forget, we'll have our FanDuel picks tomorrow. Do that every Friday, our pigskin picks. Doing pretty well so far. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season with an offer that you don't want to miss. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. So, like we like to do on this segment on Thursdays, take a look at what's going on the Big Ten Network with everything they got out. You know, they do the Big Ten Classics all the time, but fewer and fewer classics now because they're carrying more and more live stuff. That's fine. We'll kind of give you an idea of what they are doing, and we'll put it all on the screen so you can go ahead and make your weekend plans and get ready to go. Again, this is going to be a tremendous weekend of college football, especially in the Big Ten. Spent a lot of time talking about the Ohio State Buckeyes and how they'll do against Notre Dame and what the repercussions are moving forward. And, of course, the whiteout. You don't want to ever miss a whiteout game at Penn State, no matter who they're playing. It's always exciting. And, they're taking on a pretty tough Iowa team defensively. I still have some question marks about Iowa's offense. We're going to get into that in tomorrow's podcast. That's going to be our lead deal tomorrow. We're gonna, just like we dove into Ohio State, Notre Dame, we're going to dive right in to the Penn State-Iowa game tomorrow at on a podcast here and getting ready for Saturday night. A lot of great Saturday night games under the lights with Big Ten teams. All right, let's get into this a little bit. I'm going to put it on screen, and we're going to take a look to see what's going on here and put it full screen. So Friday on the 22nd, the Big Ten Network actually going to start with this first Wisconsin football classic. It is the 2004 game, Wisconsin at Purdue. That's the one where Scott Starks returned a Purdue fumble for a touchdown. You can catch all that at 4 o'clock. Get your weekend started. Maybe cut out work early and get to watching some football. By the way, I put this on here at 7 p.m. This is a lot of times they would run some classics at this time. But Friday nights now, that's Big Ten volleyball. They got a volleyball doubleheader with Michigan State at Michigan. Big rivalry there, and Ohio State at Nebraska. I am telling you, women's volleyball is getting more and more popular. Probably don't need to tell you that, but it is. So there's the deal. Saturday, September 23rd, the Big Ten Network is doing its Big Ten tailgate from Ann Arbor on the campus of Michigan, University of Michigan. And then they'll just lead right into their 12 o'clock broadcast, Rutgers at Michigan. By the way, do you know what I heard? If you've watched the Big Ten Network, you know one of the analysts there is Dave Wannstedt, former NFL and college football coach. He is predicting that Rutgers upsets Michigan. Yeah. Can you believe that? Very gutsy take, Dave Wannstedt. We'll see. Look, Rutgers is not to be taken lightly. They are a powerful, strong, in the trenches football team, and you take a team like that lightly, you could run into some problems. Heard Jim Harbaugh say this week, look, man, I just want to win by a point and keep everybody healthy. That's the only goal here. So we'll see what happens. That game is on at noon. At 3:30, it is Louisiana Tech at Nebraska. And again, we'll see if Nebraska can get things going. They got their first win last week. Let's see if they can even up that record at 2-2. Another home game. Remember, first 2 games for Nebraska were on the road. They had a tough time. Minnesota and Colorado. Now 2 games in a row at home in front of that very friendly crowd at Memorial Stadium, sold-out crowd. And at 7:30, Minnesota, fresh off their tough loss at North Carolina. Now they are at Northwestern, taking on the Wildcats. Again, that's at 7:30. And then what the Big Ten Network does, like to take some games and cut them up into highlights. So it's just snap after snap after snap for 60 minutes. A 3-hour football game condensed into 60 minutes. At noon on Sunday, it is Iowa at Penn State. So if you miss the whiteout game on Saturday night, maybe you're too busy watching Ohio State, Notre Dame, you can come see the highlights here at noon, even before the NFL gets started at 1 o'clock, right? You're good to go. And then at 6 o'clock p.m. Eastern time, Big Ten football at 60, they're going to chop up the Maryland-Michigan State game. So that is their schedule. That is our segment, Big Ten Classics, that we like to do each and every Thursday at this time. Tomorrow, this segment tomorrow, we, of course, will do our pigskin picks going into the weekend. Looking forward to all that already, man. Ready to go. Been on a hot streak. I want to thank all of you for making Locked On Big Ten your first listen every day. And again, thank you everydayers. Our next show, again, going to take a look at the whiteout game, Iowa at Penn State, in detail. So that's all very exciting as well. Plus, many ways for you to reach out to me, either now, today, tonight, maybe over the weekend. You're thinking about something we said this week? Hit me up on Twitter at TalkBig10, number 10, or here on YouTube. After you subscribe, go ahead and leave a comment. Good, bad, indifferent, doesn't matter. Won't hurt my feelings. Let's do it. Let's talk. Let's chop it up a little bit. Plus, we have our website, which you've been seeing the scroll on the bottom throughout the entire podcast. It is talkbig10.com. That's a number 10, talkbig10.com. In the meantime, be sure to subscribe and follow this podcast right now on your favorite podcast app, and you get the latest episode of Locked On Big Ten as soon as it becomes available each and every day. Now, we're going to invite you to check out Locked On Sports Today, their podcast for the latest on everything going on in sports. Have yourself a great day. Thanks for visiting with us again today. Can't wait till we talk again tomorrow, perhaps, right? Check us out. Locked On Big Ten. I'm Craig Sheeman.